Ohtani's still going to get that money. It won't be the Mets. It won't be the Yankees. It'll be a West Coast team. But there is no way that West Coast team is not going to force him to go get Tommy John surgery if they're going to pay him that kind of money. Even if he misses a year in 2024, which will make him 31 when he starts the next season as a pitcher, you still have 4 or 5 really good years for Shohei Ohtani when it comes to hitting, and then you can move him to first base or outfield if you believe that his career ends up that way. This guy could still hit for average. This guy could still hit for power. I still worry to keep him on the field. Is the Angels making the playoffs? They're not. No. So why are you continuously keeping this guy on the field? I know you're trying to sell tickets. I know you want to put fannies in the seats, but that's not protecting your player. And if you decide to give him the $550, $600 million contract in the offseason and he accepts it, you're putting your franchise player at risk. I don't think this is a good move by the Angels. I think they should shut him down completely and move on next year.
I would actually go a step further. Shohei Ohtani could go tell the Angels front office, I want to shut myself down for the season, and if you want to pay me more to keep me here, all right, fine, but you're going to have to pay a price in order to do this. I think he's still end up getting over $500 million. I hope that doesn't hinder his market, because his market is still should be very strong, because his numbers as a hitter are still top-notch in the league, too. And all the teams that have been rumored to get him, the Dodgers, the Giants, and Seattle even, they can all three of those teams have leeway to have him not pitch, and I agree with you. They definitely should force him to get Tommy John surgery, because we've seen the recovery rate be a lot better with that. Now, the second time is a lot harder than the first time, but still, Seattle has a ton of pitching depth where they don't have to worry about that kind of thing for 1 year. They have a great rotation. The Giants have always done well at developing pitchers and rebirthing a lot of veteran pitchers, and the Dodgers, they bring in all these random pitchers and these random hitters to make it work.
He is not going to lose out on that $550, $600 million contract. He will still get that contract. There are teams out there that are willing to pay him, even if they miss a year with Shohei Ohtani. If you're the Angels and you believe as an organization you're going to be able to re-sign him and he wants to stay there, you sit him out. You tell him the season is over. We're not making the playoffs. We're not going anywhere. Let's get you healthy. Let's move forward. You miss next year. Maybe you come back at the end of the season and you play. You hold him out throughout the season when it comes to hitting too. You don't want to put him in harm's way. You're paying this guy almost $50.5 million a year. You want to make sure that he is at 100%. You don't want to put him in harm's way where he gets hurt again and he could be out 2 or 3 years and you still got to pay this guy $50.5 million.
The relationship was already fishy in the offseason as it was. Shohei Ohtani said, if the Angels aren't playoff contenders this year, I'm out. Clearly they were in the first half of the season, and then after the trade deadline, they've fallen apart.
I have a feeling the Angels are going to find a way to re-sign him. I see more with Mike Trout being traded in the offseason. I think that makes more sense. They can still get prospects for Mike Trout. He is not worth the same amount of talent that he was maybe 3-4 years ago, but he's still a really great player. On the East side, I could see the Red Sox giving him that money. I could see the Mets trading for him and giving him that money. I could see a lot of different East Coast teams that will be willing to bring in a Mike Trout to be the face of their franchise or help out being one of the faces of their franchise.
How this relationship could work with Shohei Ohtani and the Angels, and I mentioned this with Jacob deGrom too with the Mets. You don't want to have to be so cute with this kind of thing, because it happened last offseason. For the Mets, when it happened with Jacob deGrom, it happened in 2021 when he started having those injury issues, and I don't think Jacob deGrom really trusted the Mets because of that, and you don't want to make that same mistake if you think you still have a shot to re-sign Shohei Ohtani, and based on the money that the Angels have spent, they should believe at this point that they have the shot.
I think they do.
They had to do that because they didn't trade him. I would have traded him at the time too, at the trade deadline, but they went all in on this approach. Obviously,
they have a very rich owner. He's one of the richer owners in baseball, and if they have to, they'll give him $700 million. If they keep Ohtani, they're going to have to move Trout. If you're willing to give Ohtani that kind of contract, it's his team now. It's not Mike Trout's. As good as Shohei Ohtani has been for 2 years, it's still Mike Trout's team. He is the face of the Angels, and he's one of the faces of baseball, even though if he was walking in the streets of New York, you probably wouldn't know who he is because he plays on the West Coast and you never get a chance to see him play. The questions are going to have to be answered. Do the Angels decide in the offseason to give him that contract and then tell him, we're not playing you next year, you're not hitting, you're not pitching, we want to get you at 100%, so we have you for the next 4 or 5 years as a dominant pitcher and a dominant hitter that's going to help us win a World Series, which we haven't done in ages. And we have seen a guy like Steve Cohen that will go out there and make the trade, and he doesn't care about the money. He doesn't care about what Trout's getting paid, because if he brings him in and he's going to put fannies in his seats, protect a guy like Pete Alonso in that lineup, I can absolutely see the Mets making a trade in the offseason. Mike Trout, he just got married and he wants to move home. He wants to raise his kids where he used to live, and that was Philadelphia, that New Jersey, Philadelphia area.